pretty much of a shortened countdown. Good evening. Welcome to a special edition of Political Pulse. Tonight, while we're on the air tonight, Joe Biden is about to address the nation. In one of the most important speeches of all of his presidency ever. This will be the first time we've heard from the president publicly ever since last week before he dropped out of the race on Sunday. In this episode of Political Pulse, we will also cover Joe Biden's political legacy, examine it. 50 years of his political legacy. All in this episode of Political Pulse. Once again, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to a special edition episode of Political Pulse, another this week, our second one this week. I am your host, Lego Post Presidency here. As we are on the air tonight, we expect moments from now that Joe Biden will be addressing the nation from the Oval Office, explaining his decision on why he wanted to drop out of the race when he made that statement on Sunday. This comes amid Benjamin Netanyahu's visit to the United States and giving his speech to Congress, which was mostly a Republican welcome, because many Democrats have denounced this visit, calling Prime Minister Netanyahu a man of genocide, a man who's killed many of children. That claim I do not believe, honestly. It's ridiculous. So moments from now, Joe Biden will speak with the nation, and we expect our analysts to join this stream shortly. But so tonight, maybe before or after this stream. No, not before or after the stream ends, obviously. After Joe Biden has finished with his address, we will begin examining his political legacy of 50 years long. He started his career in politics in the county council in Delaware, and then ran for Senate in 1972, became the youngest person ever elected to the United States Senate, obviously, because he was defeating an incumbent that had been in politics for decades. And not too long after that, his wife and son were killed. Not his wife and son, his wife and daughter were killed. And he was sworn in at his children's bedsides. Yeah. And then his 36 years in the Senate, he served as chairman of the Judiciary Committee and led the SCOTUS hearings of Robert Bork and Clarence Thomas, which were very, very controversial. He authored and supported bills like the Clinton Crime Bill of '94, the Violence Against Women Act, and of course, as many of you know, the Violence Against Women Act was expired back in the Trump era, in Trump's presidency. But 2 years ago, Joe Biden reauthorized the Violence Against Women Act. And we know he ran for president 3 times, President Biden. He first ran in 1988, but he had to drop out after accusations of plagiarism. He then ran again in 2008, but mainly Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton were the main contenders for that nomination. And he dropped out after a poor performance in the Iowa caucuses. And then ultimately he was chosen by Obama to be the running mate. They ultimately won against the McCain-Palin ticket in a near landslide. And they were reelected to a second term. His son Beau passed away, Joe Biden's son. and then won the presidency in a third successful bid in 2020. Then had this very successful career in his presidency. So that's just a little sum up of how we're going to examine his presidency tonight. But right now, we are going to be live streaming the address to the nation via ABC News. I hate these ads, don't
Behind
you?
every successful face.
Biden's speech tonight is in some ways his chance to write the first draft of his own legacy.
In a way, this speech is one way in drafting his legacy, Joe Biden. But look, here's the deal. His real legacy will be determined whether or not Democrats win the election this November. Now, and do we still have that? Oh, okay. Honestly, at first, y'all, I was very shocked by the news that Joe Biden died. I mean, by Saturday, it seemed like he was not going to give up. He was very determined to stay in the race. Then he changed his mind. By the way, this will be the link for our analysts, whether or not they want to join. By the way, I better make sure they'll still be joining us tonight while watching the speech. Let me tell y'all. So, one part of Nikki Haley's speeches is resurfacing today. This was from her New Hampshire.
Why do so many people start their day
This
here?
was from her
ABC
New Hampshire
News. This is
speech
Start Here.
from the night of the New
And
Hampshire
get a
primary.
different take on the day's
And
top stories.
A lot of news today, so let's get into it.
Listen now to the
Yes,
Daily
that,
News podcast honored with
majority of
four Edward R.
Americans don't want to see
Murrow
Biden
Awards,
Trump
and see
bring
why
that.
the New York Times
And that
calls
the
it
party
the
that
news
retired
podcast
their
worth
80-year-old
listening to.
candidate would
Start
be
here.
the
ABC
candidate that
News,
would win
making
this
your
election.
daily
Would be the
first
party
listen.
that would win
Now,
this
that's
election.
a part of the story I bet you didn't see coming.
Wherever you get your podcasts, start here.
That's just
Hey,
very
good morning,
coincidental, honestly. She's basically forecasting the future,
Good morning, America. Good morning,
even though
America.
she meant it in the opposite way.
Covering the biggest events in the country right now. There's a lot going on here.
You don't just see it, you feel it.
It's funny though now that we have a former prosecutor, that is Kamala Harris, running against a convicted felon, that's Donald Trump.
Reporting from the floor of the
It's kind of
Republican
very
National
funny, you know?
Convention, I'm Rachel Scott. Wherever the story is, we'll take you there. You're streaming ABC News Live.
Welcome back, everyone. Joe Biden's tenure as the 46th president began January 20th, 2021. Let's take a look at the administration's highs and lows by the numbers. With nearly 26,000 weekly deaths in the U.S. at the time Joe Biden taking office coincided with the worst peak of COVID deaths of the pandemic. Driven by COVID-19 and snarled supply chains, consumer prices and inflation surged early in his term. But since 2021, the economy has added nearly 11 million jobs, and the unemployment rate has come down to 3.5%, the lowest in 50 years. He signed 140 executive orders, including $1 trillion infrastructure package that brought in access to the internet. And Biden's Inflation Reduction Act created 20 tax incentives for clean energy and manufacturing. His Chips and Science Act invested $52 billion to build factories and make computer chips domestically. Since January of 2022, the U.S. has provided $78 billion in military and humanitarian aid to Ukraine. That's according to the Kiel Institute for the World Economy. And yet another foreign conflict, the war in Gaza. The U.S. has spent $12.5 billion on military aid to Israel since October 7th last year. But 36%, that's Biden's approval rating for the first 3 weeks of July, according to Gallup. And that is an all-time low for President Biden, though Americans may one day look back more kindly on the president's now sole term in office, as it often happens. So much more to get to here on Prime tonight. Coming up, a presidential historian weighs in on how we're witnessing something we haven't seen since the 1960s, a president opting to not seek a second term. Plus,
Yeah,
how
that's
Biden's
true,
legacy could
actually.
be impacted by Donald Trump's time in office. We're now roughly at the
In
30-minute mark
1968,
until Americans all across the country will hear
Lyndon
from President
Johnson
Biden at the White House. Keep it right here
decided
for
not
a
to run
special
for a
live
second
coverage,
term.
8 p.m.
Well,
Eastern,
technically, he
with full
was
analysis to follow.
serving a full term and part of a term for president. That was President
Off
Kennedy's
the
term.
asphalt. Outside.
I'm just going to mute this for right now. That was part of President Kennedy's term, but President Kennedy was assassinated, and he was technically allowed to run for a second term because the 25th Amendment over the 22nd Amendment, I believe. That's what it is. Yeah, the 25th Amendment. Yeah, no, I know. The 25th Amendment is removal from office, but yeah, it's still the same thing. It includes that provision as well. But the 25th Amendment says that if a vice president is serving 2 years of his predecessor's term, who was the president, if that president were to die, resign, etc., or be impeached, if he's serving 2 years of that president's term and a full term, the Constitution would count that as 4 years, as 2 terms, actually. So technically, Johnson was able to run in '68, but the New Hampshire primary in 1968, that was before we have our current primary system where we have delegates in our primary contests. And he almost lost the New Hampshire primary. It was 49 for Johnson, 43 for Eugene McCarthy, who was an anti-war senator from Minnesota. I know y'all want to see our analysts, and I'm sorry if I'm just going on and on and on. But a few of our analysts decided to hold a debate tonight on if we remember our channel favorite, Tester is Done, or Political Pulse favorite, Tester is Done. We decided to do a debate with one of our analysts, Sammy, and a sort of analyst, Maryland Predictions. They're doing a debate between Sammy and Maryland tonight. So they'll be a little late joining us. And I hope we'll see them eventually, but it is what it is, I guess. All right. President Biden, the decision. Well, I mean, heck, I gave it a 40 to 35% chance that Joe Biden would drop out because this is something that has never happened in our history for the last 50 years. And like, if I remember correctly, Ronald Reagan, after his first debate performance, was such a terrible one in 1968. No, not 1968, 1984. I'm having Biden moments apparently. um, he had a very poor debate performance when he was running for re-election in '84, and that led to Mondale to rise in the polls, giving Democrats new hope. Oh wait, I
not
still
just step
muted this,
out
haven't I?
of the race, saying that he doesn't feel like he's up to running.
Alright.
How do we know for sure that he's up for
There
leading
you
for the
go.
next 6 months?
I
Again,
was
like you
rebutting
said,
to
the White House
something
really
y'all didn't
responding to that by brushing it off. But I think that the
So,
president will have
so he
to
had that poor
address
debate
it
performance
himself,
in '84
and he will
for the
have to
first debate,
find a way to sort of
and
strike that
gave
balance
Democrats
between
new hope in
dismissing
their
Republicans'
electoral chances.
concerns, but not making this speech
And then
political. We're told it's not a political
Reagan, in
address
the
tonight,
second
but
debate,
address
addressed
from
the
the Oval
age
Office to the
issue.
American people.
Mary Alice Parks, our
He
thanks to
also
you
admitted
as
that he
always.
wasn't really
In
ready
our
or
country's
up
history,
to
15
the
vice
first
presidents
debate.
have advanced to the highest office
And
and
then he
become
said
president, but never quite like
in the
this. And
second
as
debate,
we're
quote,
moments
"I will
away from the
not
president
engage
addressing
an
the
issue
American
of this
people and laying out a
campaign.
transition
I
of
am not
power,
going to
let's
exploit
bring in
for
former
political
DNC chair
purposes
and
my
ABC News
opponent's
contributor,
youth and
Miss
inexperience."
Donna Brazile. And Donna, I just want to
Excuse me.
start right off with what you'd like
I'm
to
having a
hear
sore throat.
from President Biden
Something
tonight.
that Joe Biden claimed that happened
Well,
during the
Lindsay, I've
debate
been
that
thinking all day about
apparently
a
wasn't
man
true.
that I've gotten to know when I was 27 years old. I've known him for
But I promise
close to
you, I'm
37
telling the
years.
truth.
He's an honorable man, a patriot. He's someone who has a deep love and devotion to his country. I
And
want
Donna
him to tell the
Brazile
American
was
people that
the
he's going to
chairwoman of the
continue his
RNC.
work because he
Well, the
believes in
acting
freedom,
chairwoman of the
because he
RNC.
values
That
the
was
rule
because
of law. I want him to tell us
Debbie
that he
Wasserman
is
Schultz, I
not
believe
going to
that's her
stop
name,
working 24/7 on behalf of the American
was
people. This is
the
not a
DNC
partisan
chair
address.
from
This is a patriot
2013 to
address
2016,
from a president who
and she
deeply cares
resigned
about the
because
future of our country.
of the
Last week, Lincoln at the
DNC
RNC
email
had a
which
chance to
showed
interview
that the
Senator Marco
DNC
Rubio,
favored
and
Hillary
he said
Clinton
at the time then, and this
over
is
Bernie
before
Sanders.
President Biden even had decided that he was going to step aside. He said that if he doesn't have the mental acuity to
Which
be the
is
nominee, doesn't have the mental acuity to be the president and run the
it was kind
country
of crazy in
now.
a way.
Subsequently, we've heard a number of
Shocking,
Republicans
that the
suggest
DNC
the same,
favored
that he needs to
Trump
resign
over
from
Sanders
office.
when they
Your
were
thoughts
supposed to
on
remain
those
neutral
critics?
during the whole primary process.
Well, let me just tell the critics very nicely.
And
Joe
that played a
Biden did
part in
not
Donald
step
Trump getting
aside.
elected.
He had to pledge delegates to
Yeah.
continue to fight. He had money in the bank, and he had an army of
No, he didn't
volunteers and
have money in
patriots
the
who were
bank.
willing to
His
fight with him.
donors,
He decided to step back and give another generation the
his donors
opportunity to serve our country.
were
For
pausing their
those
donations
Republicans
until
and
he
any other
dropped out.
Americans who don't
And
believe that Joe Biden has the mental, physical, and
apparently from campaign
spiritual
officials I've heard
strength to
from
continue to
reporting that the
fight,
money was
well,
drying
you're going to
up.
see that tonight. He's not perfect. He never ran as a perfect president. He ran as a president for the people who wanted someone who would fight on their behalf. From leading us out of COVID, from bringing this country back on its feet in terms of jobs. This is a president who is proud of his service. And tonight you're going to
And
see
now that
a man
Biden
who
dropped
cares
out,
deeply
Harris
about
is
his
actually
country.
getting
This
back
is
some
not
demographics
someone who looks in the mirror and say,
that Biden
this
was
is about
losing
me.
to
This is a
Trump.
man who cares about America. I've lost my voice because I have just been talking to people who want to see Joe Biden continue to fight. I was one of those Americans who said if Joe wants to fight, Donna Brazile will fight with him. But Joe Biden decided to step back. He was not pushed aside. He was not thrown off the bus or rolled over. He's going to show tonight that he was a president willing to stand and fight, but he's stepping back. So a new generation will fight this battle, and we're going to fight it with the energy that Joe has put in us and the commitment to American values, the freedom, the rule of law. That's who Joe Biden is. That's the man I respect. That's the president that has served us well. We owe him a debt of gratitude.
A lot of the expectation is that much of his speech tonight will be about cementing his legacy, talking about the accomplishments of his administration. How much of it do you think is it about passing the torch now to Kamala Harris?
Absolutely. You know, when I think about the bipartisan infrastructure bill, when I think there are people in rural areas in this country today that are having Wi-Fi connected, when I think about the jobs that are being created in red states and blue states, manufacturing sector, when I think that inflation is coming down so people can go to the grocery store and buy the food that they need. This is a consequential president. And yes, he has endorsed Kamala Harris. And let me just say what the vice president's been doing. She's been earning the support of the American people, working with the delegates, working with the process. Today, the Rules Committee of the DNC passed the resolution. We know how we're going to proceed. And I think by the weekend, the Democratic Party is going to be unified and we're ready to go. Let me just tell you, Joe Biden did not want to see a divided Democratic Party. He wanted to see a united Democratic Party because without a united Democratic Party, we cannot reach out to the independents and the Republicans to bring the American people together. He's not going to preach unity on one night. He's not going to preach unity because he's accepting the speech. He's going to preach unity because he believes it in his heart. I have become more fierce in my determination to protect Joe Biden over the last couple of days because I just remember the little kid from Louisiana that he said, come work with me. And I said, I don't want to work with you just yet. And we've been friends, steadfast friends for 37 years. I miss my time with him having breakfast. He eat Irish oatmeal. I like my grits. I'm from the South. Yeah, he's an oatmeal guy. And I told the president, as soon as I can get back to Washington, I'm going to have breakfast with him. The old-fashioned way, the way we two Irish people like to have our breakfast.
Donna Brazil,
I'm just
good
checking the
Irish
headline
woman that you are.
for when
Our
Biden's
thanks
gonna
to you,
speak.
as always.
Black Irish. Proud of it.
Now I want to bring in ABC's Jay O'Brien, who joins us from Capitol Hill. Jay, we've heard Republican
Capitol
after
Hill.
Republican, including at the highest level, say that President Biden stepping aside is not enough, that he must resign from office now. Can this Oval Office speech do anything to put that train back in the station?
While we expect President Biden to deliver this message of unity, Lindsay, and to talk about his accomplishments and what he wants to accomplish over the next few months of his administration, I don't think there's anything he can say, to your point, that's going to change the calculus. And frankly, what we will see instead are some political divisions on display with the way that House Republicans and frankly Republicans of all stripes are expected to react to this. I can tell you that we have a number of high-profile lawmakers, Republicans here on Capitol Hill, who have already called on President Biden to step aside. One is Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson. Another is someone who you had on your air not long ago, Tom Emmer, the majority whip in the House of Representatives. Josh Hawley, a senator, and the list goes on of Republicans who have called on him to resign. And there is this split. There are the Democrats who say he is stepping aside because he doesn't think he can win November. He's making a selfless choice for the future of the party. And then there was the Republican argument that he's stepping aside because he doesn't necessarily have the gas in the tank to win in November in terms of ability. And while the White House disputes that and have said, look at his doctor's reports, look at his health history, things of that nature, Republicans are still pushing that narrative. Even Tom Emmer earlier tonight used the word cover up with you. So that schism is very much going to be on display. And we do not expect these Republicans, no matter what President Biden says tonight, to stop those calls between now and really November.
Jay O'Brien, our thanks to you as always. And joining us now is presidential historian Mark Updegrove. Mark, thank you for joining us. The country is witnessing something we haven't seen since LBJ decided not to run for a second term back in 1968. What are some other similarities between then and now?
You know, that there are similarities and there are differences. The similarity is, of course, it's the last time, as you suggested, a sitting president opted not to accept the nomination of his party for another term in president. But the difference is this, Lindsay, that speech that LBJ made in 1968 was done on March 31st, and he neither sought nor chose to accept the nomination of his party for another term. Joe Biden sought the nomination. He got the nomination, and now he's declining to accept the nomination, and he's doing so at the end of July, not the end of March, well into the election cycle. So that's a major difference. But I think the other similarity
didn't want to go on the ballot in the primary
there are echoes of 1968
because he didn't believe primaries were
a
necessary.
stream of unprecedented
and
and dramatic events that kind of shake us to our core and
And he
wonder
almost lost.
what's happening next.
And with all
1968
the
was
crap that was
what
going on in
LBJ called the
Vietnam,
nightmare year because there was
just
one
sad,
thing
just
after
sad,
another.
just sad.
We are seeing that once again caught up in the currents, the rapid currents of history in 2024, Lindsay.
And one thing that really fascinates me, of course, the presidential debate in June was the earliest such debate ever. Do
That's
you
why
think that
you
historians
never
might look
have a
back and say,
debate
if
before a
not for
party
such an early
convention.
debate, President Biden might have stayed in the
Because all
race?
hell will break loose.
It's possible. There's the one thing about that debate, Lindsay, is it determined the fate of one of the political candidates. We really haven't seen that before, to the point where the candidate reevaluates his candidacy and says, I'm not the guy to steer this party forward, so I'm going to get out of the race. That's
Biden's
never
about to address the
happened before.
nation
You point
a
out
minute
it
now.
happened early in the race. The Democrats may be happy about that because had that performance happened at a later point, it might have been very difficult to recover from that point on, serve up a candidate who was viable and who was appealing to the electorate. So that might have been a twist of fate for the Democrats in this case and an advantage as they go forward with a brand new candidate to whom Joe Biden passes the torch.
And just about a minute left, Mark, but Biden really seems to have been tortured over this decision for several days. How might history come to view his early departure?
I think that history will see the wisdom in his opting
Wisdom,
not to
patriotic.
seek the presidency again for another term, given what we saw in that performance earlier, that debate performance you mentioned, Lindsay. But I think ultimately we will see Joe Biden as a patriot who made the decision to put his country above himself, above his own political gain in this case. And this is a guy who worked his whole life toward the acquisition and exercise of power. 36 years in the Senate, 8 years in the vice presidency, 3+ years in the presidency. And now he has an opportunity for one more term and decides that it's best for the country to step down. I think history will smile favorably on Joe Biden for making that decision.
Despite his low approval ratings now.
Despite his low approval, well, in part because
Sorry if y'all
of his
heard that was
low
my gavel.
approval ratings. I think Joe Biden sees that
Gavel
he
I
is
got
not
from
the
the
guy
Supreme Court.
to take the country forward. He got into the race in order to save democracy, and he's done an admirable job of that, but I think he sees that he's not the person to fulfill that going forward. Is Kamala Harris.
Presidential historian Mark Updegrove, we thank you so much for your time. That's our show for tonight. I'm Lindsay Davis. Our special coverage of President Biden's Oval Office address starts right now with David Muir.
Oh.
Tonight, President Biden addressing the nation from the Oval Office, the president's historic decision to withdraw from the race for the White House, his goals for his remaining 6 months in office, and his message tonight to a divided America. ABC News live coverage begins right now.
The ABC News special, President Biden, the decision, address to the nation. The president speaking for the first time since exiting the race for the White House, finished the job he started. Now reporting, David Muir.
Good
All
evening,
right,
and thank
here
you
we
for joining
go.
us on this historic night. We are just moments away from President Biden's Oval Office address to the nation. For the first time, he will speak to the American people about his very personal and likely wrenching decision to withdraw from the race for the White House. We are told that he will argue in his words that the defense of democracy is more important than any title, and he will outline his remaining 6 months in office. Pressure to drop out had been mounting for weeks following his alarming debate performance against Donald Trump. The president revealing his decision Sunday in a letter addressed to my fellow Americans, acknowledging, quote, I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down. Tonight's address, a defining moment in his presidency, passing the torch to Vice President Kamala Harris, now the Democratic Party's presumptive nominee. The president will signal tonight he will now fight for his vice president. Let's listen to President
Ladies and
Biden.
gentlemen, Political Pulse presents the
fellow
President of the United States.
I'm speaking to you tonight from behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office. In this sacred space, I'm surrounded by portraits of extraordinary American presidents. Thomas Jefferson wrote the immortal words that guide this nation. George Washington, who showed us presidents are not kings. Abraham Lincoln, who implored us to reject malice. Franklin Roosevelt, who inspired us to reject fear. I revere this office, but I love my country more. It's been the honor of my life to serve as your president. But in the defense of democracy, which is at stake, I think is more important than any title. I draw strength and I find joy in working for the American people. But this sacred task of perfecting our union is not about me. It's about you, your families, your futures. It's about we, the people. We can never forget that. And I never have. I've made it clear that I believe America is at an inflection point. One of those rare moments in history when the decisions we make now will determine our fate of our nation and the world for decades to come. America's going to have to choose between moving forward or backward, between hope and hate, between unity and division. We have to decide, do we still believe in honesty, decency, respect, freedom, justice, and democracy? In this moment, we can see those we disagree with not as enemies, but as fellow Americans. Can we do that? Does character in public life still matter? I believe I know the answer to these questions because I know you, the American people. And I know this, we are a great nation because we are good people. When you elected me to this office, I promised to always level with you, to tell you the truth. The truth, the sacred cause of this country is larger than any one of us. Those of us who cherish that cause, cherish it so much, a cause of American democracy itself, must unite to protect it. You know, in recent weeks, it's become clear to me that I need to unite my party in this critical endeavor. I believe my record as president, my leadership in the world, my vision for America's future, all merited a second term. But nothing can come in the way of saving our democracy. That includes personal ambition. So I've decided the best way forward is to pass the torch to a new generation. It's the best way to unite our nation. You know, there is a time and a place for long years of experience in public life. There's also a time and a place for new voices, fresh voices, yes, younger voices. And that time and place is now. Over the next 6 months, I'll be focused on doing my job as president. That means I'll continue to lower costs for hardworking families, grow our economy. I'll keep defending our personal freedoms and our civil rights, from the right to vote to the right to choose. I'll keep calling out hate and extremism. Make it clear there is no place in America for political violence or any violence ever, period. I'm going to keep speaking out to protect our kids from gun violence. Our planet from climate crisis is the existential threat. And I will keep fighting for my cancer moonshot so we can end cancer as we know it, because we can do it. I'm going to call for Supreme Court reform because this is critical to our democracy, Supreme Court reform. You know, I will keep working to ensure America remains strong, secure, and the leader of the free world. I'm the first president in this century to report to the American people that the United States is not at war anywhere in the world. We'll keep rallying a coalition of proud nations to stop Putin from taking over Ukraine and doing more damage. We'll keep NATO stronger, and I'll make it more powerful and more united than any time in all of our history. I'll keep doing the same for our allies in the Pacific. You know, when I came to office, the conventional wisdom was that China would inevitably surpass the United States. That's not the case anymore. And I'm going to keep working to end the war in Gaza, bring home all the hostages, and bring peace and security to the Middle East and end this war. We're also working around the clock to bring home Americans being unjustly detained all around the world. You know, we've come so far since my inauguration. On that day, I told you as I stood in that We're stood in a winter of peril and a winter of possibilities. Peril and possibilities. We were in the grip of the worst pandemic in the century, the worst economic crisis since the Great Depression, the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. We came together as Americans. We got through it. We emerged stronger, more prosperous, and more secure. Today, we have the strongest economy in the world, creating nearly 16 million new jobs, a record. Wages are up. Inflation continues to come down. The racial wealth gap is the lowest it's been in 20 years. We're literally rebuilding our entire nation, urban, suburban, rural, tribal communities. Manufacturing has come back to America. We're leading the world again in chips and science and innovation. We finally beat Big Pharma after all these years to lower the cost of prescription drugs for seniors. And I'm going to keep fighting to make sure we lower the cost for everyone, not just seniors. More people have health care today in America than ever before. And I signed one of the most significant laws helping millions of veterans and their families who are exposed to toxic materials. You know, most significant climate law ever in the history of the world. The first major gun safety law in 30 years. Today, the violent crime rate is at a 50-year low. We're also securing our border. Border crossings are lower today than when the previous administration left office. I've kept my commitment to appoint the first Black woman to the Supreme Court of the United States of America. I also kept my commitment to have an administration that looks like America and be a president for all Americans. That's what I've done. I ran for president 4 years ago because I believed and still do that the soul of America was at stake. The very nature of who we are was at stake. And that's still the case. America's an idea. An idea stronger than any army, bigger than any ocean, more powerful than any dictator or tyrant. It's the most powerful idea in the history of the world. That idea is that we hold these truths to be self-evident. We're all created equal, endowed by our Creator with certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, pursuit of happiness. We've never fully lived up to it, to this sacred idea, but we've never walked away from it either. And I do not believe the American people will walk away from it now. In just a few months, the American people will choose the course of America's future. I made my choice. I've made my views known. I would like to thank our great Vice President, Kamala Harris. She's experienced, she's tough, she's capable. She's been an incredible partner to me and a leader for our country. Now the choice is up to you, the American people. When you make that choice, remember the words of Benjamin Franklin hanging on my wall here in the Oval Office, alongside the busts of Dr. King and Rosa Parks and Cesar Chavez. When Ben Franklin was asked, as he emerged from the convention going on, whether the founders have given America a monarchy or republic, Franklin's response was, a republic, if you can keep it. A republic, if you can keep it. Whether we keep our republic is now in your hands. My fellow Americans, it's been the privilege of my life to serve this nation for over 50 years. Nowhere else on earth could a kid with a stutter from modest beginnings in Scranton, Pennsylvania, Claymont, Delaware, one day sit behind the resolute desk in the Oval Office as President of the United States. But here I am. That's what's so special about America. We're a nation of promise and possibilities, of dreamers and doers, of ordinary Americans doing extraordinary things. I've given my heart and my soul to our nation, like so many others. I've been blessed a million times in return with the love and support of the American people. I hope you have some idea how grateful I am to all of you. The great thing about America is here, kings and dictators do not rule, the people do. History is in your hands. The power is in your hands. The idea of America lies in your hands. You just have to keep faith, keep the faith, and remember who we are. We're the United States of America, and there's simply nothing beyond our capacity when we do it together. So let's act together, preserve our democracy. God bless you all. May God protect our troops. Thank you.
A moment in history tonight. President Biden in the Oval Office. You heard him say there to the American people, I revere this office.
Sorry, I forgot my mic was off. Sorry. That was President Biden just sitting there in the Oval Office addressing to the nation about his decision to step aside and outlining his plan for his last few months in office as president and outlining his achievements and successes while president of the United States. We're now going to start an examination of Joe Biden's political legacy. Joe Biden started his career in politics in 1970, when he won election to the Newcastle County Council. Newcastle County is a county in Delaware. So you see there's a young Joe Biden, 27 years old, along with the other council members. I believe this photo was taken when he was in county government. Excuse me. I'm just feeling sick tonight. So here it is. He was in the county council for 2 years, actually. And in 1972, when his council seat was redrawn to favor Republicans in an election cycle, he decided not to run for another term in the Newcastle County Council, and instead decided to run for Senate that year. And Biden, he won the Democratic nomination to be the nominee for Senate in Delaware. He ran against the incumbent Republican Senator Caleb Boggs, who had served in Congress for decades. Yeah, hold on, let me show the photo. Not the photo, the results, excuse me. So, Caleb Boggs, a Republican senator, a liberal Republican senator, I believe, moderate. He was in Congress in politics in Delaware for decades. A very well-known name in Delaware. He was he served Delaware in the House of Representatives with the at-large district. He was the governor of Delaware for 8 years, from 1953 to 1960, and then, so 1960, he was elected to his first term in the Senate. He was serving 2 terms, and Boggs was ultimately considering not running again. But President Nixon convinced him to run again with the full party supporting him. And so Boggs ran again. And his opponent, so this was how old was Caleb Boggs? Like maybe a 50, maybe 60-year-old Republican, incumbent Republican who had been a fixture in Delaware politics for decades, running against a 29-year-old kid from Scranton, from the county council. And in a major upset, Joe Biden won 50-49. He won defeated this decades-long politician. It was the biggest upset that year for the U.S. Senate and the closest election in the Senate that year. Well, Biden won it by over almost less than a point, while Richard Nixon, who had done an almost 50-state sweep in the concurrent election, carried Delaware by 20 points. I know. Crazy, isn't it? And at 29 years old, he was the youngest senator elected. At 29, he was the youngest senator ever elected to the U.S. Senate. And so, of course, the constitutional requirement for a senator was that you had to be, 30 years old to be in Congress. Well, to be in the U.S. Senate, you had to be 30 years old. And 2 weeks after Joe Biden was elected to the Senate, he celebrated his 30th birthday. The constitutional requirement age for a U.S. senator there. And as you all know, Joe Biden wasn't married to Jill all of his life. He was married to another woman named Nelia. And Bo and Hunter were from that first marriage. Also, a daughter, Naomi. Hold on. Didn't expect that to happen. Naomi, little baby. And sadly, on December 18th of 1972, that same year, while going out, oh wait, hold on, this is the wrong tab. Jesus. While his wife and their children were going out to go get a Christmas tree, a trucker accidentally crashed his wife's car. Joe Biden's wife's car, T-boned it. Oh my God, that's just terrible. Involved in a car crash, and Nelia, Joe Biden's first wife, and Naomi, their daughter, died upon arrival at the hospital. It's so shocking. While Bo and Hunter survived the crash with very minor injuries, but some of them were still serious. And these Bo and Hunter, when this happened, they were like 3 and 2 years old when this happened. And Joe Biden considered resigning his seat in the Senate to take care of Bo and Hunter. But the Senate Majority Leader, Mike Mansfield, convinced him to stay in the Senate. So on January 3rd, 1973, Joe Biden was sworn in as the junior senator from Delaware, right by his son's hospital bedsides. He said in his opening remarks, the first time when he was a senator, that if he wasn't a good dad, as he was going to be a good senator, then he would step aside from his Senate seat. Ultimately, that did not happen, and during most of his children's lives, he would be in Washington, D.C., and take an Amtrak train back to Delaware to go see him and take care of him. And, during his 36 years in the Senate, Joe Biden had an astonishing career, honestly. Hold on. An astonishing career in the Senate. And Joe Biden, at one point when he was in the Senate, he was the chairman of the Senate Judiciary Committee, which takes care of Supreme Court nominations. He was the chairman of that committee during the controversial confirmation hearings of Robert Bork and Clarence Thomas. And Robert Bork was not confirmed to the Supreme Court. His nomination was rejected. because his confirmation hearings were overshadowed by his past racist and sexist remarks, and his nomination ultimately failed, 57-43. And Clarence Thomas's accusations. Clarence Thomas's confirmation was overshadowed by the allegations brought on by Anita Hill, one of Clarence Thomas's colleagues, former colleagues. And when Hill testified to the committee about her allegations against Thomas, some members of the committee faced controversy for not taking the allegations seriously. But of course, that was before the Me Too movement. Ultimately, Clarence Thomas was confirmed to the Supreme Court 52-48. And after 33 years since those confirmation hearings, Clarence Thomas remains on the court today. He is the longest serving justice on the court right now. And in 1994, Joe Biden authored the 1994 Clinton crime bill, which included the federal assault weapons ban. Oh, we have an analyst here. Welcome, Hawkeye.
What's up, gang?
Hey, so we were just giving live coverage of Joe Biden's address, and now we're.
Oh yeah, I watched it. The way he was talking, I thought he was gonna resign.
Yeah, seemed like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, to recap for you, Hawkeye. So Joe Biden, he started his career on the county council in Delaware.
Yep.
And when his council seat was redrawn to favor Republicans, he decided to run for Senate. And then he ran in Delaware against a two-term incumbent who had been a fixture in Delaware politics for decades.
Yep.
And ultimately, Biden won in a major upset that year.
Didn't he win in like a giant red wave year too?
Yeah, Nixon won Delaware by like.
Inside. I forgot about that.
It was like an almost 50-state sweep for Nixon because McGovern carried Massachusetts.
Yeah, Nixon won Delaware by like 20 on the same ballot.
20 points, yes.
Yeah.
And Biden ended up winning by 50-49.
Yeah, it was a close. It was a close race. I remember that.
He was the youngest senator elected because he was 29 years old.
Oh yeah, everybody was like, "Oh, I don't know, dude. He's too young." Like that's what the news outlets were saying.
He turned 30 like 2 weeks after election day.
Yeah, he was a really young guy.
And then after the election, 1 month later, his wife and daughter were killed in a car crash.
Yeah.
And Joe Biden was sworn in at his son's hospital bedsides.
Yeah.
And over Joe Biden's career in the Senate, he served as chairman of the Judiciary Committee, where he was presiding over the SCOTUS hearings of Robert Bork and Clarence Thomas.
Yeah. And then he managed to run for president in '88 and obviously didn't do too well.
Yeah, I was going to bring that up later. So back to what I was saying earlier before you joined, Hawkeye, but in 94, Joe Biden authored the 1994 Clinton crime bill, which included the federal assault weapons ban that lasted 10 years.
Yeah.
And Democrats have been trying to get it renewed ever since, because by the time it expired, George Bush was president, the second George Bush.
Yep. Yeah, they everyone blames Reagan for the assault weapons ban, which honestly I don't really think it was. I think it was more of his wife that did that. But
yeah, I think I remember Bill Clinton signing a bill, the Brady Bill, that was named after Reagan's press secretary that was shot and basically wounded for the rest of his life because James Brady had to live in a wheelchair. He'd be confined to a wheelchair, and he died back in 2014. And the autopsy labeled his death a homicide by the overlying factors of his gunshot wound to the head.
Yeah.
Also in '94, Biden also authored the Violence Against Women Act, which helped women who were victims of domestic violence and sexual assault, and etc.
Yeah, Biden was also, wasn't he like one of the only Democrats in the Senate to like approve of like a pro-life bill or something?
A pro-life bill?
Yeah, like I think wasn't he like pro-life back then?
Well, Democrats have had a lot of flip-flopping when it came to abortion because, well, then the Democratic Party was kind of a bit more conservative back then.
Socially, yeah, not really economically, but socially, yeah.
Socially, not economically. And Joe Biden was a Catholic, so
made sense.
That could be the reason why he was probably a little bit pro-life.
Yeah, he's Biden basically is just a career politician who flip-flops a lot.
Yeah, like John Kerry.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
John.
I know that John Kerry was a flip-flopper because I saw this old campaign ad from 2004 that George Bush did.
Oh, I know it's the Iraq War one. I saw that one.
Where John Kerry was parasailing, I believe, or was it?
Yeah.
I don't know. And it was like a flip-flopping ad. John Kerry voted for the Iraq War,
yep,
and now he opposes it. He supports it and opposes it again.
I think that one particular ad actually helped Bush a lot in his election victory. Not even kidding.
Yeah, and also indirectly 9/11 as well. His response to 9/11.
Yeah, he had good leadership during that.
Yeah, and as Red Tie was mentioning earlier, in '98, Joe Biden ran for president, hoping to be the Democratic nominee, run against then Vice President George Bush, the first Bush.
Yeah.
That was his campaign logo, an 80s style campaign logo.
I think Biden would have done actually a little bit better than Dukakis, but he still would have lost, in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, Dukakis
was a moron.
Dukakis was an idiot. I mean, he was so liberal when it came to crime, but then again, he's from Massachusetts.
Yep.
I mean, the Willie Horton crap really killed him.
And the tank. Can't forget about that.
And, yeah. I remember I was watching this clip from one of the debates in '98. Not '98, '88. Where one of the moderators asked Dukakis if his wife were raped and murdered, would he favor?
And then he was like, "Oh no, I would never."
Death penalty for the killer. And then he said, with no emotion whatsoever, no, that he wouldn't.
He was like, yeah, no, I've always been against the death penalty. I'm very, very strongly about that. Like,
Yeah,
bro, shut up, bro. Like, come on.
That killed his chances.
Oh, big time.
And so Joe Biden did run for president, and he was initially favored to be the nominee after Gary Hart dropped out because of the affair that he had.
Yeah.
And Gary Hart was the runner-up in the '84 primaries when he was running against Mondale.
Yeah.
But then allegations of plagiarism were made because at one of the Iowa debates, he plagiarized a speech that was given by a member of the Labor Party in Britain. And
yeah, he barely passed his college classes, so he plagiarized the speech.
And then there were even more allegations that he plagiarized Robert Kennedy, Martin Luther King, etc. And at that point, he decided to drop out of the race.
Which was definitely the better idea, in my opinion, because, yeah.
And 20 years later, in 2008, he ran again.
And Still
But,
didn't get anywhere, but finally became a vice president.
yeah, but yeah, he ran, but mostly Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama were originally favored as top contenders for the nomination.
Yeah, they were.
And Biden dropped out after that poor performance in the Iowa caucuses. Let me see if I can find it. Hold on. 2008 Democratic Iowa presidential caucuses.
Yeah, Obama won that.
Yeah, and John Edwards.
Yeah, he did.
Was second. Then Hillary Clinton was third. Yep, there it is. So let's look at the caucus results. Yeah, Biden, he only got 23 votes, 0.9%.
Biden, as you already know, I live in Iowa, and I could tell you that Biden has never ever done well here in like a presidential run, because he didn't even do well here in 2020.
Yeah, he even did terrible in 2020.
Yeah.
Hold on. Let me see if I can find the caucuses. Here we are. Came in fourth here. I thought he came in fifth, but it came in fifth here in Iowa.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yo.
And so then
look at the county results. The county results were weird. I don't even think Biden only won like a few counties. Yeah, he didn't do.
Yeah, he didn't win. He won very few counties.
My county voted for
First
Bernie.
alignment, final alignment.
My county voted for freaking Bernie.
Which one is your county?
Scott
County. Hold on. Does it say the counties in the results? Hold on. Scott County. Nope.
You just
Did I
it's
just
like
pass it?
it's where Davenport is.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And so then ultimately Joe Biden was chosen by Obama to be the running mate.
Which I think he did. Which Biden actually was a good pick in my opinion, because Obama kind of needed help with like the older generation, you know.
I mean, there was no other good picks other than Biden, honestly.
Yeah.
Because it was either him or some old career politician senators.
Yeah.
That I never heard of. But ultimately, the Obama-Biden ticket ultimately won the election
By
against
a convincing margin
the
too.
GOP McCain-Palin ticket in a near landslide.
Obama could have actually won Missouri had he like campaigned there more often.
Yeah. I mean, I know that Missouri and Montana were very close for McCain.
Yeah, they were. They were.
When was the last time Missouri voted for a Democrat?
It was 96 for Clinton.
Oh, I thought Dole won that in 96.
Yeah, no, Clinton won that.
Ah, okay. And this moment always struggles me. In 2010, when Barack Obama was about to sign the Affordable Care Act into law, Biden was caught on hot mic telling Obama, quote, "This is a big fucking deal."
Yeah. Remember when I remember Obama was like, "Don't underestimate Joe's ability to fuck things up."
And he did.
Yes, he did.
But hold on, I'm finding that video where Biden was like, "This is a big effing deal."
Okay.
Hold on.
Story.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America, Barack Obama.
It still sounds the same, too. It's pretty funny.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, the President of the United States of America,
I'm
Barack
going again
Obama.
for second time. And hold on, let me show you this. So one moment from one of Nikki Haley's speeches is resurfacing, where she's talking about how majority of Americans don't want a Biden-Trump rematch. Hold on, I posted it on my channel.
Most Americans do not want a rematch between Biden and Trump.
Yeah, nobody does. I agree.
The first party to retire its 80-year-old candidate is going to be the party that wins this election.
Well, guess Democrats guess Kamala's winning then.
Yeah.
Bro, I can't believe that Kamala's actually the nominee. It's crazy.
And what's kind of funny is, you know that she's a former prosecutor.
Yes. Oh yeah, and the
We
liberals are
have
like,
a-
oh, it's a prosecutor versus a felon.
We have a former prosecutor against a convicted felon.
Yep.
And she's saying that she knows Donald Trump's type.
Yeah.
Did you see the meme that's circulating all over the internet from one of Harris' speeches, where she mentioned something that her mother used to say?
The coconut tree thing?
You think you just fell out of a coconut tree?
Who do you think's gonna win as of right now?
Oh God, that's a tough question.
I think my hot take is that I actually think Harris does better than Biden.
Yeah, Harris does better than Biden, honestly. And,
For me, I'm waiting until she picks her VP before I make any real predictions, because I think her VP is going to make a major impact on how the battlegrounds vote.
Speaking of VPs, I think the VP will probably be Josh Shapiro. Because,
Okay, well then she's winning Pennsylvania, and
because that will help her in the Rust Belt, and if she wins the Rust Belt, then she doesn't need Nevada, Arizona, Georgia, or North Carolina.
Here, hold up, just fill out the battleground map. Here, actually, hold up, I'm gonna share
Hold
my
on.
screen.
So let me just fill it out. No margins whatsoever.
Yeah, fill out the battleground map, just like with the original 226 to 219 map.
Oh, have Virginia red. Ha.
Yeah, I don't
Virginia.
buy the. What the hell are you doing? Okay, there you go. I was about to say, bro, are you okay?
Yeah.
I don't buy the narrative Virginia's going to be close. Trump's terrible for that state.
Yeah.
That state's 75% suburb.
Now, if Biden was still in this race, I'd have New Mexico, maybe Minnesota, New York, New Jersey, and Virginia in play.
You think New York would be in play?
Well, I mean, I saw polls where it was Biden versus Trump before Biden dropped out, and Biden was only leading Trump by 9 points in that state.
Don't forget Nebraska at large at large.
For,
don't forget to fill that in red. There you
go.
New Hampshire, the rest
Oh.
Okay, and then Texas.
Then Texas.
All right, so then assuming she picks Shapiro, so just give her PA real quick.
So
that's the new battleground map if she picks Josh Shapiro right there. That's the new battleground map. So
now, honestly, what I think is, so Trump could carry Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, and Nevada, but if Harris picks Shapiro, then she would win the Rust Belt. She wouldn't need those states.
Well, I don't think she'd win Wisconsin still. I think Wisconsin's her weakest battleground state. It's the most white rural out of all of them.
And I think probably, she can get the abortion message around in Nevada and Arizona.
Yeah, I think I think Harris's path to victory is through the Sun Belt. So Michigan, Arizona, and Georgia, and then Nevada. I think that's her easiest path because she has zero Rust Belt appeal.
Well, I know.
Unless she picks.
I mean, if Roy Cooper is the nominee for vice
president. You want to
president.
see my map? Okay, so here's my map. If it's Roy Cooper, so
Hold
give
on.
Trump. Okay.
Oh, I thought you were going to show yours.
Yeah, I'll share my screen. Just give me a second.
Okay, hold on.
Okay.
Oh, that's it.
All right.
Okay.
So let me just fill these out. Close out Discord so I don't keep getting pinged. Okay, so obviously
I lost access to my Discord. All right, so back to what you were saying.
Okay, so let me just fill up a quick battleground map. I'm not doing margins because I don't really need to. It's not really worth my time. Okay, so if it's Roy Cooper, I think obviously that, and then okay, she's going to Minnesota. So I think Trump would still barely win North Carolina, even with Roy Cooper on the ticket. He wins Nevada. I think Harris, though, with Cooper, would actually get over the top in Georgia very narrowly, with also the help with the Atlanta area coming out for her. I think she does well there, better than Biden would have. Trump wins the Rust Belt, but then Harris wins Arizona. That's my map if she picks Roy Cooper.
What if it was Mark Kelly?
If it's Mark Kelly, it's the same map, but with Georgia being red.
Ah, okay.
Yeah, and then if it's Buttigieg, then I think this is it.
Yeah.
So I really think the map could go with several different ways depending on who Harris picks as VP. We just need to wait and see who she picks as her VP. Now, if it's Bashir, I think it'd be that.
Yeah.
So it'd be pretty tight.
Yeah.
But overall, I think she's gonna pick Buttigieg. So this is my map right now.
Yeah. And I just saw reports from CNN, ABC, I believe, that Kamala will announce her VP pick by August 1st.
Well, did they? Yeah, I saw that. But do they mean she'll actually announce it, or she'll just make a decision by then?
Make a decision, maybe announce it. I don't know.
I hope it's an announcement because her VPs give me a much better clue on what the map will look like because her VP is really going to make an impact in my opinion. So she she definitely needs to pick somebody good. I hope she picks somebody bad because obviously I want her to lose. But here are my current margins real quick. I use 13 and over as safe. So right now I have her picking. Oops. Right now I have her picking Buttigieg. Sorry. Right now I have her picking Buttigieg. So, and then I think New York actually drops down to likely D. So yeah, this is.
Yeah. Seems accurate.
Yeah, so this would be it, in my opinion. Assuming Buttigieg is the candidate.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
That's very good.
Yeah.
And I'll be doing another episode of Political Pulse on Friday, discussing who would be Harris's VP pick out of all of them. So anyways, back to examining Joe Biden's legacy. So then in 2012, Obama and Biden were comfortably reelected to a second term.
Yeah.
Then in 2015, his oldest son, Beau, passed away from brain cancer at 46 years old.
Yeah.
And his son's death led him to decide not to run for president in 2016.
If he was the nominee in 2016, I actually think he would have won.
Yeah.
Because he would have won the Rust Belt, and that would have been enough to put him over.
Yeah.
And also, he'd probably also win Nebraska second as well in that scenario.
Yeah.
And then obviously Arizona and Georgia are still red because they're red states still.
Yeah. I mean, Georgia's just became a swing state ever since 2016 because Trump won by 50 to 46 in Georgia in 2016.
He won by 5, I think. It was 50 to 45.
And Stacey Abrams pretty much just cemented Georgia as a swing state.
Well, I also think that had to do with Trump's horrible appeal in the Atlanta suburbs. I think somebody like DeSantis, Youngkin, or Haley would easily win it.
Yeah. Not to mention some Republicans who were dissatisfied with Donald Trump.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, because keep in mind, a lot of those, keep in mind, those Atlanta suburbs, they have gotten more like black over the years, but there's also like a lot of white people that still live there who voted for Bush, voted for McCain, voted for Romney, and then voted for Clinton and Biden. And then also voted for Nikki Haley in the primary. Those type of voters are the type of people that are a little bit of the reason why Georgia's bluer now.
Yeah. And
I think Georgia's going to be close. I think Harris actually does well there. I think she does a lot better there than Biden.
Should do a lot more better than Biden.
Not in the suburbs, but in like the city of Atlanta. I think she does a lot better than Biden. And
I mean, Biden was basically going to lose Atlanta by like 10 points, or maybe 7. I think that was the last poll before he dropped out.
I don't think it was going to be 7. I thought it was
points.
going to probably be like 2 or 2.5.
And now Harris is winning back some more key demographics that Joe Biden was losing.
Yeah.
Like the black vote. Now, before Joe Biden dropped out, his support among black people for the election was 77. I believe Harris's support is 88.
Yeah, obviously kind of expected. I expected her to gain with blacks a little bit.
And she's gaining back with Latinos and basically the whole demographics.
Yep.
So in 2017, Joe Biden left office as Donald Trump and Mike Pence became vice president. And then in 2019, Joe Biden launched his third and ultimately successful bid for the presidency. He and his running mate Kamala Harris defeated Trump and Pence 306 to 232. That was then sworn in on January 20th, 2021.
And that's basically been, and then obviously 3.5 years later, he then debated for his second term, and that basically ended his entire career.
Yeah. I remember that day, Inauguration Day. I remembered how much I wanted to watch the inauguration that day.
I was watching.
Sadly, that was a school day.
Yeah, I was watching it. We actually had a substitute teacher that day in my class. I was in 6th grade, I think.
I was in 6th grade too.
Yeah. And we had a substitute teacher that day in all my not all my classes, on my math class, and we watched it there. And yeah.
Yeah. And so I pretty much had the inauguration on recording in the DVR of my television, and pretty much watched it when I got home from school.
Yeah.
And now Inauguration Day will fall on Martin Luther King Day, so we'll all be out of school for Inauguration Day.
Mm-hmm.
Either
crazy.
Kamala Harris or Donald Trump will be sworn in.
And then his vice president has a chance of being elected.
I tell you, JD Vance has the most interesting life story, honestly.
I am really not satisfied with his pick. Vance just does not.
Yeah, I honestly thought it would be Burgum.
I thought it'd be Burgum too.
Because Rubio had those issues with residency. And JD Vance, he was a newcomer.
Yeah, he literally just got in the Senate.
He literally just got into the Senate.
Yeah.
I believe the last time a freshman senator was on the Republican ticket for vice president, I believe that was Richard Nixon, I think.
Uh-huh. Yeah, Vance, he needs a little more experience, in my opinion. He needs
more experience.
Yeah, he's still in his 30s, bro. Like, give him time.
Yeah,
he just wasted his entire Senate career for that. Yeah. Well, but I think
some vice presidents ultimately decided to get back in the Senate after their vice presidency is over.
True. I think Vance is definitely the favorite to be the nominee in 2028 now.
Yeah.
It's going to be him against Whitmer. I think that's going to be 2028. Vance versus Whitmer.
I guess I can kiss goodbye the chances for Haley 2028, I guess.
No, I think her chances would still be there if Biden
Yeah.
won, because we'd go back to like the Bush coalition. But if Trump wins, yeah, she's done for.
Yeah. Yeah, Haley is like a Bush type of Republican, honestly.
Which I'm also a part of the Bush week. I'm just not a big Haley fan.
Yeah, I'm pretty much the same way as well, honestly.
I know you probably thought I was like one of those like Trumpy people, but I'm actually more of a Bush type. But
Mhm.
I'm a team player, so I usually unite around whoever gets nominated.
Yeah. And I'm now thinking of supporting Donald Trump, but now that Biden's dropped out, something is just telling me to just support Harris, because you know, me and my family, we didn't think a Biden-Trump rematch was going to be a good thing.
Yeah,
'Cause
no,
we
it really
wanted
wasn't.
better choices, and now that the rematch ain't happening, we're getting new choices. Or a new choice, actually, since no other Democrat will run against her.
A new choice and a half, I'd say.
A new choice and a half, actually.
Yeah.
Oh, we finally have a comment.
Oh, I forgot we were still streaming. Oh yeah, it's my
Oh,
boy.
yeah, we're still streaming.
It's my boy election talk.
We're just gonna go. We're just going to go through Joe Biden's accomplishments in his presidency. Like, part of it is legislative accomplishments, and then pretty much the rest of it.
ET has a question for you.
ET has a question?
Yeah.
LPP, do you think Harris has a shot at winning? Like Hawkeye said, we're probably going to have to wait to find out who her VP pick is to determine that.
What I will say is, though, and keep in mind, I'm a very hardcore conservative. I still think that Republicans are way over, like, they're way overdoing the map. Like, I don't buy the narrative Trump's going to be winning over 320 electoral votes or anything like that. Maybe if he has maybe if he runs like a much better campaign and Harris runs a much more worse campaign than both of them are right now, then we could maybe talk about some. But even then, I'm still skeptical. Like, Trump's just not popular enough to win by that decisively.
Yeah, hold on. I think this is what Republicans were thinking of, a Trump landslide.
Oh yeah. They also have Maine at large flipping.
Maine at large flipping. Oh yeah.
Yeah. The majority of people. Okay, so I think they still have New York and Illinois going for Harris, but other than that, that's basically most of people's maps. Oh, and Oregon. Oregon's probably also still blue for them.
Yeah.
That's like most of their maps right there.
Yeah. Honestly, I feel that Illinois has some of the most corrupt politicians in the entire country.
Pritzker.
Pritzker.
I can't stand that guy.
Yeah. We have another comment. And Jersey still blue? Yeah, probably.
No, a lot of Trump supporters actually still have. A lot of them actually have Trump winning New Jersey against her. I agree, even in the best case, it'd still be blue, but a lot of people have red.
So back to Joe Biden's examining his legacy. So first, legislative achievements. He signed the COVID-19 Recovery Act into law, which helped the country recover from COVID in some form. Infrastructure and Jobs Act also signed, which invested more money in infrastructure and economic jobs. The Inflation Reduction Act, which slowed inflation for some time. Signed the CHIPS Act, which invested in manufacturing and advancing technology with chips in some form. Also signed into law the first gun safety legislation since the Clinton crime bill. Of course, that was after the Uvalde shooting, where like 30 people were killed. And one legislative achievement that's not mentioned much is the Emmett Till anti-lynching law was signed by him, which made lynching a federal hate crime. Now, Emmett Till, who is the namesake of this bill, was a young African American boy who in 1955 was kidnapped and lynched by two white men after he allegedly flirted with one of the men's wives. That's pretty much led to the discourse that caused the civil rights movement. And in 2022, he appointed Ketanji Brown Jackson to the Supreme Court, which made her the first black woman to be on the Supreme Court. Although in his term, he also faced numerous controversies, including legal problems with his son Hunter, or should I say convicted son now, allegedly hiding classified information after his vice presidency, and the withdrawal of Afghanistan, the very catastrophe withdrawal of Afghanistan that left America with significant American casualties, and etc.
Yeah.
In his term as president, he was also known for falling a lot. So much.
Oh yeah, his son. Yeah.
Yeah.
I have this.
Let me tell you.
This was like a year before Hunter got convicted, but he was like my liberal friend. He was kind of like the cases against Hunter Biden are ridiculous, don't you think? And that aged really poorly. So
You know, in a way, Judge Cannon, the woman in Florida, the judge in Florida that's doing the classified documents case against Donald Trump, she dismissed the case because the special counsel was not confirmed by the Senate. And now Hunter Biden is using that ruling to dismiss the special counsel and all of his criminal cases that the special counsel brought against him.
Yep.
Yeah. So pretty much, in some way, Aileen Cannon helped Hunter Biden in a way. Hold on. I'm trying to find this short that I did when Joe Biden fell in 2023. I tell you, it feels like Joe Biden has these yearly falls. Because in 2021, he fell going up the steps of Air Force One. Then in 2022, he fell off his bike. And then
I remember that. That was hilarious.
And then last year, he fell on the stage during that Air Force ceremony. Hold on. Election talking still. Yeah, that ruined his approval rating.
Did you see that Obama's refusing to endorse Harris because he thinks that she can't win against Trump?
Well, I didn't see the part where Obama didn't think Harris would win. But when Biden dropped out, NBC was reporting that he was not sure whether or not to drop out because he thought Harris wouldn't be good enough against Trump. And when I heard that, I thought, damn.
I hate MSNBC.
Yeah, MSNBC, they're so liberal, very anti-Trump. Good Lord. So this is a video I did back last year after Joe Biden fell at the Air Force ceremony. It was a completion of all his falls during his presidency, all three of them.
What can be unburdened by what has been. Oh my God. He really made us a laughing stock of the world.
That video got lots of views, honestly. 2,000.
My most viewed video got like 10,000, I think.
The most viewed video that I have is like
Or wait, no, I forgot. My most viewed video has
32,000.
Never mind. No, I was wrong. My most viewed video has 80,000 or 87,000 views.
Wow. And all in all, Joe Biden leaves behind an astonishing 50-year legacy in politics. Honestly. Whether if you're Democrat, Republican, or Independent, you must agree it was an astonishing legacy. It's an astonishing legacy.
Yeah.
Well, next episode of Political Pulse will air this Friday at 7 p.m. So that's all for now. We'll be back on Friday. And right now, LPP signing off. Have a good night, everyone.
Yep. See you guys.